Hello everybody, and welcome back to season number 4 of LRC. And we are here in Jeddah for the second race and third race, I guess, if you count it that way, because we have a sprint race coming up today, for the second round of season 4 here with Tier 1. My name is Coolest, and once again I will unfortunately be the only commentator joining you today in the commentary box as we wait to get this first session underway, which, I'm going to be honest, I think is a sprint race, just judging by the time on the side. One-shot qualifying, of course. Completely forgot the format then, that's my bad. So we get straight into the action here. It's going to be pretty hectic right from the off. I have no idea if timing screen's going to be able to cope with this. Let's see if they can. Indeed, it looks like they will. So, straight into the action then here, because of the extended sprint format, and so far it is Lamauno in the McLaren who is looking quick through this first sector. Athari now, who is finally back after missing the first couple of rounds, is into the lead at the moment, as you saw Anirudh there actually crashing out, so that is not a good start for him. He's going to be starting last on the grid for the sprint race. I Like Trains will be joining him towards the back of the field. Meanwhile, it's Ixies jumping up to second there, with Athari sort of swapping positions with him. Meanwhile, Lamauno having a slight advantage there, only by about a tenth or two of a second it seems. So a very frantic session here. That is how it works with the sprint race format here in LRC, and that means that anyone who is able to get a really good lap in here is going to be getting some free positions before we go into the sprint race straight after this one. And it is Athari still second, with Lamauno still in the lead as they go into the final sector of the lap here, with Ixies in a solid P3 looking to come back and bounce back from being taken out at the first corner last time out in Australia, and he's going to do that in style perhaps as he gets up into second now, might be able to start in the front row of the grid here. Meanwhile, Lrc and Germanbeat trading positions for 4th and 5th as we get now towards the line to end off the one-shot qualifying. It will be Lamauno who takes the front row of the grid alongside Ixies in second place in the Red Bull, and Lamauno by some margin there, 3.5 tenths, doing really well under the pressure of the one-lap situation. And quite a big gap down to Germanbeat in 4th as well from Athari. The top three all relatively close together, and then some bigger gaps further behind, and a lot of drivers invalidating as well towards the bottom half of the field. And I think quite a lot of drivers just crashing out as well. For the second time in Season 2, LRC gets ready to see some racing action as here we go to 3, 4, 5 red lights. And it's go for the sprint race in Jeddah. We're going to ride on board here, and look, that's Ixies with a terrible start off the line and an accident in the back. Looks like they've all managed to recover that one pretty well, but no, there's an accident further forwards as well, as Ixies once again gets spun round at the front of the field, and carnage ensues through the first chicane. Even through the slow speeds, the drivers all getting tangled up as all 20 cars try to negotiate that very tight first sector. Meanwhile, Lamauno once again, as he always sometimes somehow manages to do, able to weave his way through the chaos pretty cleanly after a good start to the race. Kvyat Banner has jumped up into second. He finished third last time, and he's picked up exactly where he left off with some fantastic form here. Meanwhile, you can see Frosty there reserving for Athari today, and he has got Maxcon in the Haas all over the back of him there. But that was a hectic start at the first chicane. All kinds of different drivers getting involved. It seemed like there must have been about 7 or 8 cars making contact. It looks like everybody is still in the race, so I don't think anybody is going to have too significant damage. It was all relatively low speed contact and collisions, but yeah, some big disappointments already there on the first lap, one of them being for Ixies. And look at the pack racing we've got going on here as we go towards the end of sector 2. You can see Smolly in the Williams almost looking for a move there, as wide off the track goes one of the Aston Martins. That is Germanbeat, I believe, or sorry, no, I think that might be Kimi. Even it is Kimi, and Ixies is going to now try and capitalise on that by going for a move around the outside as they head down this back straight towards the final corner. They're almost going 3 wide in the background. They are going 3 wide, and around goes Smolly in the Williams there, and almost got collected. I think there was a little bit of a tap by the Mercedes of I Like Trains, but looks like everybody luckily able to keep running in a straight line somehow, apart from Smolly. So potential crisis averted perhaps, although Kimi has had to come into the pits at the end of this lap, and he will, I presume, have some damage in this race, which is not a good thing for him. And look there, the squeeze to the wall from Denzel. really putting the block onto German Beat there in the other of the Aston Martins, as we have a predictably chaotic start to the race here, and very wide goes the McLaren there, as we're going to ride on board now with the Aston Martin of German Beat here, getting, well, he was going to get a bit of a tow from the McLaren, but the McLaren of Denzel cut the corner there quite a bit, and now German Beat a little bit slow, and that caught I like trains off guard a bit there, as now Okram's going to try and sneak through on the inside, and you might be able to get past both cars in one go here, but not quite able to do so. He'll have to stay behind German Beat for the time being, but still not an ideal start for Okram. He's on the soft tyres and wasn't able to capitalise really, as he's only got up about 2 places from where he started in this race. As we saw, I think some damage coming off one of the McLarens. It looked like a McLaren M plate at least, and I think that must have then been from Denzel, I would assume. As we can see now, this is the Red Bull of Ixi's going up against the Alpha Tauri of Perhaps, as they go wheel to wheel into the final corner, and you can see fighting further up the order as well. That's the Alfa Romeo of Bablo going head to head against the Mercedes of, I believe that is Anirudh there, who's unfortunately not got the correct driver number on, so you can just replace that one in your mind. That is Anirudh in the Mercedes, you can tell by the yellow helmet, and he is up into P6 already from starting last place, so he has done really well to get through the chaos. And speaking of chaos, I can see, I think Denzel dropping down the order there. I'm not sure if he's coming to the pits or what, but chaos continues really, as you can see. Once again, more pack racing, and Frosty's crashed. Frosty's crashed somewhere up the order here, and wouldn't be surprised if, yeah, we do have a virtual safety car. We'll ride on board, and there he is on the inside there, being taken out. I wonder if there was maybe some contact with somebody else, or if he's just dropped it on one of the curbs. But Frosty, who was running pretty well in this race, in the top 5, has crashed out in that first sector. So easy to do, and he actually joins Marty, who had already DNF'd from this race. Which another one that we didn't catch, unfortunately. So the bad luck continues for Marty in LRC this season, and Frosty will be joining him in the first of the DNFs, and that means we do have a virtual safety car to put a little bit of a break in the action here early on in this race. But of course, with it only being virtual, that does mean it won't be too much of a break. Meanwhile, look at this, Lamauno 10 seconds clear of the next car, which is Jarmin now, after I think Frosty might have even been running second in the race. I didn't quite get to see as Maxcom picks up a drive-through penalty for speed under the safety car. So Maxcom's race has just got ruined as well. He'll pull straight into the pits to serve that one, and if there's not another kind of safety car in this race, then he might be, well, he's going to have a very long full distance race ahead of him once that gets underway. Meanwhile, here comes Ixis trying to make up places once again, and now gets the move done on Perhaps and gets up into 6th place. Meanwhile, you can see lots of positions changing down the order. You can see the Alpine and Aston Martin going side by side. That is Afari and I think German Beat there, with Smalley getting involved in the background, or sorry, Okram getting involved in the background, and all kinds of action kicking off here as we're back to green flags. We did have a very brief yellow flag there, but it looks like here, at least in this battle, German Beat has been able to get ahead of Afari 4 for now, as we will have quite a lot of slipstream for the drivers to contend with, so very hard to defend a position around a track like this one. With all of the massive straights, and the DRS, of course, will still be enabled, only a virtual safety car, so it's going to be racing resuming exactly where it left off, as we've already seen with effectively what was pack racing there in the first stages of this race. It's spread out a little bit now and calmed down just a little bit. Meanwhile, it's not calm up here though, because Lrc has just made contact. I saw him getting very close to the Red Bull of Jarmin, and he's just spun him out into the wall now. That's both drivers losing positions, as there goes the Aston Martin getting through as well, and Lrc dropping all the way down to 9th place. He was trying to go for a move around the outside of turn 22. That's a very bold one. Meanwhile, side by side going into the final corner, round the outside goes one of the Ferraris. I think that's Kvyat Bonner getting past Perhaps into P5. Indeed it is. And Lrc losing place there, and I think losing traction on the exit of the final corner as well. He just clipped the wall on the inside now, and he's going to have to go into the pits. Meanwhile, the DRS means that the racing is coming thick and fast into turn 1 here, with the Alpha Tauri getting back past the Ferrari, Perhaps getting straight back into P4 now, as I think somebody else must have come into the pits. So here they go now into the first sector, into the S's. is, and I think surely now it must start to settle down a little bit, but, well, if I'd thought that before, I'd have been wrong, and it seems like the action is just going to keep on coming here, as the gap keeps on growing for Lamau now. 11 seconds clear now. He's basically been able to break DRS and then just waltzed away at the front of the field whilst everybody fights and crashes behind him, as Bablo now running a incredibly solid P3 in this race. Shout out to him there, he's doing an amazing job in the Alfa Romeo. Meanwhile, this battle is now extended to 5 cars, stretching from perhaps in 4th place down to Okram in 8th place. Okram now getting up into what I believe is the point scoring positions there in the top 8. I'm not sure if it's top 8 or top 10, but here comes the Alpine looking for a move. That was a Ferrari trying to maybe eye one up on German beat on the inside into turn 22, but probably after seeing how that one turned out for Lrc last time, he decides to think better of it. Meanwhile, German beat's eyeing up a move of his own on the Ferrari here. He's going to go for the move around the outside of Kvyat bonnet into the last turn. You can do inside or outside there, and there's grip either way, which means it's now 2x2 exiting the final corner, as all of these cars trade in positions, and Okram is going to get past all 3 of them in one move and get up into 5th place. But he's going to have to give one back, because I think he overtook them off the track. He's going to have to give them all back. So what would have been a really nice move by the Williams driver, he's going to have to lose that one and wait another day to see if he can make the move again, as he was just about off the track on the inside whilst he made that one. As my controller continues its traditions there, we'll get that one sorted and see if anything has managed to happen in those 5 seconds, and I wouldn't be surprised if it had, but no, it's at least a moment of calm in this race as everybody negotiates the very tricky first sector, trying to put the racing aside for 1 second and just focus on surviving, really. It's very hard to get the traction through there, especially if the tyres start to overheat a little bit, which they can do, especially when you're fighting like this, and like all of these guys are, for what is absolutely points-paying positions, and for a better starting position in the actual race as well. As you saw, I think there was all 3 of the drivers there from German beat down to Kvyat on a clip in the wall on the outside of that chicane section, but it doesn't look like anybody has gotten any damage. At least it's not on simulation, so they can get away with that sort of thing. But somebody who's going to be looking for a move now is a Ferrari in the Alpine, right up to the back of German beat now. He was close last lap, but he's a lot closer this lap. Is he going to try and go for the move into the final corner? No, he doesn't seem to have the straight line speed, as that was Kvyat bonnet going a little bit late on the brakes there and almost crashing into the back of the Alpine, and that's going to allow Okram now to sail back up the inside and get the first of those positions back, just like he did last lap, and he might be eyeing up some more here already. Meanwhile, here comes perhaps going for the move on the inside of Bablo into the first corner. Bablo cuts the corner through turn 2, and they're still side by side as they exit turn 2 now, heading towards turn 4. They're still neck and neck as they head into the corner, but surely with the inside line, yes, perhaps is going to get the move, but no, he's not going to get the move, because Bablo went off the track and is still trying to fight this one. He's still going side by side all the way through the first sector here, and I think surely now, no, Bablo goes off the track once again. I'm not sure the stewards will be best pleased with that one, but this is just chaos as they head down into the banked left-hander, and Bablo on the outside, still side by side and wheel to wheel with the AlphaTauri, perhaps trying to fight desperately for this podium in the sprint race, and they're still going to go side by side into the next chicane. This time it's perhaps cutting the corner, and I think he's going to get ahead because of that, and Bablo is just going to have to tuck him behind for the time being. But look at this swarm of cars heading towards the fast left-hander, and look at, there goes on the inside the Aston Martin, almost going 3 wide into turn 22 and 23, sensibly backs out, does German beat there, but still side by side for an entire lap now is Bablo and the AlphaTauri perhaps, and look at there, that's the Alpine trying to get involved. It's a Ferrari going through the middle and up the inside, and contact behind as German beat gets through, and more contact there, and Bablo gets taken out, and I think that was Okram getting spun around as well. He doesn't seem to have picked up any damage. Bablo definitely did pick up some end plate damage, though you can see his left front end plate missing there on the front wing, and well, I'm impressed that that didn't happen sooner. Those guys were racing so close to each other there. There's some unbelievable racing going on in the sprint race here. We're on to the penultimate lap of the race, and here comes a Ferrari now fighting German beat for P3, so all change at the front. as they jostle it out for the last podium position in the sprint race at least. And of course every position will count towards a better starting position once the actual race gets underway, so everybody very eager to make some moves. As you can see, off the track again goes Bablo. He's struggling, I would imagine, quite a bit with the damage now. He was already taking some interesting lines before then, as we saw with the wheel-to-wheel action last lap, and I think Maxcon is continuing said wheel-to-wheel action by making a move on I Like Trains, who's going to try and get the switch back through the bank left-hander, but not able to find the grip, and Maxcon will get the move done now, at least for the time being. We have to add that caveat for every single overtake that gets done here, because the action is just non-stop, and I think Okram might be the next person to get involved on that action. Once again, he's going to try and go for the move in the inside, as you know. Thinks better of it against Bablo there, but Bablo with that damage understeers wide, predictably wide off the track, and Okram now surely with the DRS is going to be able to breeze past him here as he heads towards the final corner, and I think Afari is going to be trying to make a move of his own. He's right onto the back of the Aston Martin. As you can see, well, we'll hopefully see in a second if Okram has made the move, and indeed he has. You can see it there, but here comes now Afari on German Beat. He's going to go for it around the outside. German Beat defends on the inside and is able to hold on to the position as they head on to the final lap of the race. And there was a little bit of a slide on the exit for Afari, so the tyres perhaps starting to get a little bit too warm and a bit worn out as well as we get onto this final lap here. And perhaps as well getting, well, I thought he was a little bit closer to Kvyat Banner than he was. Timing screens lying to us again, as they so often do, unfortunately. But Maxcon was, I think, also going side by side again with I Like Trains. I'd imagine I Like Trains making use of that second DRS zone down the main straight to try and continue the battle, but he's dropped back now. And I think that's P9 secured in this race for Maxcon, if anything, well, depending on whether anything else happens further up the field. Speaking of which, here comes Afari. This is going to be his last chance now. The win of this sprint race is basically set in stone, as is P2. It's going to be Lamano leading from Anirudh, but this is where the fighting is going on. It's Afari versus German Beat for the final place on the podium in the sprint race here. Into the final few corners, Denrod has crashed out as well, but he was already down the order. And here comes now Afari with the DRS. He's going to try and go for the move around the outside of German Beat towards the final corner, but German Beat, it looks like he's going to get the DRS to the line, so Afari might have some work to do yet. They're still side by side as they exit the final turn, and who is going to have the better straight line speed? It's a drag race to the finish here. Who is going to get it at the line? It's German Beat. Somehow, by what was that, 0.01 of a second, Lrc just cannot stop delivering photo finishes, and there's another one for you for P3 in this race, as perhaps it's going to take P4 actually, because on penalties, I think Afari has dropped down the order. Indeed he has. Afari will drop down to P5 with the penalties applied. Kvyat Banner will take 6th place. Maxcon jumps up to 7th actually after the penalties. Okram will manage only 8th. He had 6 seconds of penalties. Smolly 9th, and Jarmin will round out the top 10 for the sprint race. But it's Lamano who absolutely dominates this one by winning by almost 20 seconds over Anirudh in P2. Round number 2 officially here, the full distance, full fat race here in Jeddah as we get ready to start things off. It's 5 red lights. And it's go in Jeddah for the second time, and who will get the best start this time? As we look down the order already, and Lamano's already gone. He's just left the field behind. That's a nice one from Codemasters. Anyway, through the first chicane, who is going to be able to get through cleanly? Is everyone going to be able to make it through cleanly this time? It looks like they are. Somehow, everybody's managed to make it through nicely this time without hitting each other. As they head in towards turn 3 now, where the track tightens up through turns 4 and 5. You can see side by side there, further down the order, I think that was one of the Red Bulls and one of the Mercedes, and oh, getting a little bit too close there. There was contact with an Alpine and a Haas going off the track, and you can see more cars going off the track. Those, I think that was, who is that? That was Afari in the Alpine going wide, and he's dropped right down the order now, and a crash further backwards there. I didn't get to see who that was. I think that was Cooper retiring from the session as somebody else going round there, or almost going round. I think Jam has just been able to catch that one, so good save by him. He only drops down 1 position to his teammate Ixies, who gets past him now, but chaos ensuing at the end of the first sector this time instead of the start of it. And well, looked like everybody was well behaved for a second, but never mind. We've reverted to type, shall we say. But I think it's to be expected at a track like this one with such high-speed corners, such close walls on the start of the race. It's almost inevitable that you're going to have some kind of collision somewhere. And unfortunately, I think this time it's been Cooper who's been the innocent victim and taken out of the race already on the first lap. I would imagine it was him that we saw spinning out to the inside of turn 8 and or turn 9, I should say. Sorry. But it was only a virtual safety car. Once again, the game seems allergic to giving us safety cars in this league, so we are straight back underway with the green flag action, and it looks like Germany on those soft tyres will immediately be looking to try and capitalise and try and pounce on the Mercedes of Anirudh, who is on the hards, which you would imagine shouldn't be too difficult of a task for him, but we'll have to see. Anirudh might put up a bit of a fight here. And we'll keep an eye on that one and see how it goes as the race progresses. But it looks like a little bit of a calmer start to this one, even after that short virtual safety car. It looks like everybody's a little bit more spaced out than they were last time. As you can see, the Mercedes there have I think that's I Like Trains following behind German for P12 and P13, as German B already getting past Anirudh. That was a lot quicker than I was expecting. He's just managed to get past into the banked left-hander of turn 13 with, well, I would imagine it was probably a pretty impressive move, so it's a shame that we didn't get to see that one, but I wonder if maybe there might have been a mistake somewhere through the first sector from the Mercedes. Of course, those hard tyres will take a long time to heat up compared to those softs, so it wouldn't surprise me too much if there was some kind of mistake, even from a driver as good as Anirudh. And either way, German B is now up into P2 in this race and going to try and press after Lamauno, who I think has actually got a drive-through penalty, so he must have jumped the start then. That would explain why he was so far ahead. I just assumed it was some kind of Codemasters thing, but he is, never mind, he's got a drive-through penalty. It's up the inside, goes Akram trying to get up into P5 on Kvyat Banner there. They go side by side once again, just like they were doing in the sprint race, and this time it's a clean move, and Akram is able to get straight through and up into P5, make that P4, and he might be about to make that P3 as he goes up the inside and perhaps into turn 1. The two go wheel to wheel, as Akram, I think, on the medium tyres as well. Yes, he is. Oh, sorry, no, Akram's on the soft, so Akram the only other driver to go on the softs in this race, and he is now making very good use of that to get up into P3, as Lamauno has had to pit to serve his drive-through penalty. So his main championship rival, Akram's main rival, is down in P15 in this race. As round goes, who was that? That was Smolly in the Williams. The other Williams there goes round and spins across the front of the track, almost took out one of the Red Bulls there, and resets the track. So stewards probably won't be too pleased with that one, but an accident for the other Williams there, who was running quite well in this race. It's a big shame for Smolly. He was looking on track to maybe even score some points, but he's crashed out now and down to P17, but he is still running at least, and he's running side by side with Marty in the Alfa Romeo, who's going to be able to make use of the fact that he doesn't have damage to get through on the inside and get up into P17. As meanwhile, Lrc, I think there was a collision. There must have been a collision because Exis is dropping right down the order, and there's another accident there. That's Luigi who's just spun out, and well, I think Exis must have spun out as well further down the pack, and yeah, there he is. You can see him. I don't know what's happened there, but I just saw him dropping like a stone through the order on the timing sheets, and he is now all the way down in, well, last place bar one from only Kimi, who's still ahead, or who he's still ahead of. Meanwhile, here comes the battle for P2 and potentially even for P1. Anirudh with the DRS closed right up to the back of German Beat into the first couple of corners there, but German Beat just about able to hold on this time. It does look like he's running fairly low wings, at least it seemed that way from the sprint race, and he's been able to make use of that to try and defend even with the DRS there, and stays ahead for the time being. Meanwhile, Lrc going wheel to wheel with Bablo and gets the move done into turn 4 and gets up into P7 in this race. Of course, Lrc had a miserable old time in Australia last time out, and he is looking to make amends and bounce back with a solid performance here in Jeddah. Meanwhile, his teammate Maxcon is right onto the back of perhaps these two. I think might have been battling towards the end of the first lap. Sorry, end of the fourth lap. Third lap? Whatever. I think Akram's actually just made a move. Akram has just made a move, so apologies that missed that one. That was my bad, and Akram has got up into second in this race. So I think, well, I wonder if again maybe there was a mistake, some understeer perhaps for Anirudh and the hard tyres, but either way, Okram straight through and up into second place in this race. So it's now the two soft tyre runners running in first and second, apart from Kimi down in 17th, but he did, of course, pit onto those soft tyres. But here comes the battle for the lead now. The challenge coming in from Okram. He knows that his rival is weak in this race. Lamano down the order, and he's going to try and capitalise by going round the outside and swoops into P1 in this race. Okram takes the lead away from German Beat and will lead this fourth lap onto the fifth lap of the race now, and try and defend. I think he's not going to have DRS, but he's far enough ahead that German Beat is not going to be able to counter him or make any kind of challenge, and Okram now leads the race here in Saudi Arabia for the first time since Bahrain in the pre-season. So after a tricky race last time out, he was able to climb back up into second at the end of things, and just about missed out on the race win last time, literally side by side over the line with Lamano, but he's already trying to make amends for that one. Lamano, after jumping the start, that could be a crucial error for him, because he is still running down in P11 in this race, outside the points. But he is looking to try and get straight back into those points, because he's right in the back of I Like Train to the Mercedes here, and he's going to try and go for the move on the inside now as they head towards the bank left-hander, and I don't think I Like Train is going to fight it too hard. Indeed he won't, and knows that Lamau is going to be the quicker driver there. And Lamau gets his way through up back into the top 10 in this race, but still a lot of work to do for the McLaren driver, who is of course one of our title hopefuls this year. As round goes Bablo losing it under traction there and spins out of the chicane and has to loop it round again to try and get back going the right way as everybody dodges around him. Looks like everybody's been able to avoid him, but Bablo, that's a huge shame for him. He'd been running so well in this race, had such a good sprint race too, and now spins out. A mistake on the exit of the chicane is going to cost him big time, as he will lose a lot of places there. I think he must have dropped about 7 places or 8 places there, all the way down to P15, so a big shame for him, and he's now going to have to fight against his teammate as well. Meanwhile, perhaps up the order is making use of the DRS to get ahead of Kvyat Bonnet into turn 1, getting up into P4, as Okram sets the fastest lap of the race, no surprise, making use of those soft tyres whilst they still last. And yeah, perhaps with a pretty solid move there, pretty clean stuff, using that DRS to get up into P4, but German Beat is, Kvyat Bonnet is not going to give it up that easily. They're on the same compound of tyres, so Kvyat Bonnet is going to be fighting him legitimately on track here, and he will not want to give up that place at all. As they head towards the bank corner, is Kvyat Bonnet going to try and move up the inside? He switches with a late dive bomb, perhaps does give him the space to work with. They go side by side through the corner, and as they head back into the curved right-hander before the chicane now, it's perhaps with the inside line and able to get the better exit out of the corner and able to stay ahead for now of the Ferrari of Kvyat Bonnet, but Kvyat Bonnet is going to have the DRS now straight away to try and challenge that and try and change that. Here he goes now, you can see the slot open on his rear wing, and he's going to go up the inside, which will become the outside of turn 22. It'll be the inside for turn 23 though, and with that Kvyat Bonnet is able to get back up into P4 in this race, but it's not done yet, because here comes perhaps with the DRS now, and here comes Lrc as well. All 3 of them getting involved, and all 4 of them, because Maxcon's right there as well. Lrc goes a bit late on the brakes and almost clatters into the back of the Ferrari, and somehow all the order stays the same out of the final corner, but I doubt that's going to continue towards turn 1, as here they go now. They're going to go 3 wide for a second, and Lrc might just get past all of them. He does indeed get past all of them. Lrc must be running some really low wings here, because he has just blitzed past all 3, or both of them, on the start finish straight and gets up into P4. Really nice move by him. Meanwhile, after all of that, still side by side goes the Ferrari and the AlphaTauri, perhaps in Kvyat Bonnet, but it's perhaps this time once again who is going to win out as they head into the first sector, and Maxcon is just going to have to sit behind and wait for a potential move. There's a big slide there from Kvyat Bonnet. He got a huge tank slap run through the S's as Maxcon runs wide in the background as well, just showing you how difficult that first sector of the lap is for these drivers, especially if you're running even slightly too high tyre pressures. It can be a real killer once those tyres start to overheat, but look at that, there was a really tight line to the inside there. Kvyat Bonnet trying to look for a different way through the corner and see if he can try and find a move through on perhaps in any other way than the conventional DRS overtake, but No good for him so far at least, but he is still right there with that DRS, and he is going to go for the move this time on the inside of turn 22. Here they go once again, it's deja vu but flipped the other way round, and this time with the inside line again. Kvyat Bonner able to make it work through that very high speed complex of corners, but perhaps again we'll get the DRS into the final corner and the battle will just continue and continue, as now into the turn 27, the last corner on the track, perhaps goes a little bit wide though, and almost invites Maxcon up the inside, but Maxcon has to get brake checked by that one and might be vulnerable to the Alpine of Afari behind him. Meanwhile, perhaps now, with the straight line speed advantage from the DRS, is going to get the move done surely on the outside, and oh, look at that, that was Maxcon doing exactly what his teammate did last lap, gets the better exit out of the final corner and just breezes past with the lowered wings that they must be running over at Haas, and gets straight up into P4. There was literal deja vu from what Lrc did a lap ago, and meanwhile Afari has been able to get past Kvyat Bonner as well, and finally somebody is separating Kvyat Bonner and perhaps from the fight that they had just been having that was going on and on and on. But Afari is immediately going to try and look to dispose of the AlphaTauri of perhaps now as they head in towards the banked corner, and that's Lamau there looking for a move around the outside of Kvyat Bonner as well. He's going to try and find some grip where there really isn't any on the marbles out wide there, and because of that he's not going to be able to get the move done. But he is practically pushing Kvyat Bonner through the corners, as is Afari, with perhaps these two getting really close together, and these four really getting very close together. And now with the DRS, you'd imagine surely that Afari is going to be able to get past the AlphaTauri here, and he might be able to do it before they even get to turn 22. Indeed he will, and Afari now free to chase back after Maxcon, which he was already doing. Of course, Afari on those hard tyres, so he'll be going longer in this race. His pace is pretty impressive considering he is on those hards, so looking good for him so far. Meanwhile, the battle is not done yet between Kvyat Bonner and Lamau, who are going to go, well, they almost went side by side into the last turn. Lamau backed out of it though, because he wants the DRS down the start-finish straight here so that he can finish off the move, and he does exactly that, got the better exit out of the final turn, and breezes past Kvyat Bonner's Ferrari there to get up into P7 as he continues this recovery drive in this race. Excuse me, as I just have to take a quick break from the action that's been non-stop here in these first 9 laps of the race. Of course, the sprint race was almost finished by this point, but it continues on here for another 16 laps, and this is your race leader, Okram, 3.5 seconds clear of Anirudh in behind him. And Okram's still going on those soft tyres, so putting in a really good stint. He has to be one of the best drivers in the field on his tyres, as we saw him pull off an incredible strategy in Bahrain to make his tyres last, going soft to medium of all things. No idea how he did that, and was able to pull it off and won the race there. So I would imagine he might even be looking to try and repeat that feat here in Jeddah by doing an equally insane soft to medium strategy here, or well, either that or he's just going to do the more sensible and conventional thing and pit onto a set of hards when he does come in for his pit stop. And if it is hards, and I'd imagine that would be fairly soon. Meanwhile, the battling does continue. It's a little bit spread out now, a little bit further strung between the few drivers that are still fighting here. Looks like the actual order of the pace seems to have settled down a little bit, but Lamau is looking to change that though. Of course, our pole sitter here from the sprint session, and dominated that sprint session, so we know he's got some really good pace in that McLaren, and he will be looking to try and get past the hard tyre runner of Afari up ahead of him. But Afari similarly is looking to try and get ahead of the medium tyre runner of Maxcon ahead of him, so Maxcon not quite got the pace to contend here. Meanwhile, in the background, I think that was one of the Alpines coming out. That was Luigi, who's actually a lap down. Meanwhile, we've got a yellow flag somewhere in the first sector, so well, it's gone green now, so it might have just been Luigi slowing to let cars through there under blue flag conditions. As you can see, that was Afari. He's got a lot closer through this first sector, seems to be enjoying those hard tyres a little bit more than Maxcon's enjoying the mediums. Either that or he's just got an outright pace advantage, but either way, he is closing up to the back of that Haas with every corner that goes by, and he will absolutely be well within DRS range. He was already in DRS this time last lap, but he should be closer this time. But Lamau is also closer to him, and Lamau effectively giving Afari the hurry up there as they go into this straight line section. Well, not straight line section, I should say, with the DRS open once again for both drivers, as they both look to try and make respective moves of their own. They're all going to close up a bit here and bunch up into this high speed left and right hander and double right hander, and now onto the back straight. straight. Here we go. This is where the action's going to really start as we head towards the end of lap 10 of this race. Here comes the Alpine and here comes the McLaren. Who's going to go for the move first? It's going to be a Ferrari going for it round the outside. He was shown a little bit of a gap by Maxcon, but he was a bit foolish to take it there, perhaps, because that's going to invite Lamauno down the inside now, and these three might go 3 wide here as they head towards turn 1. Indeed they will, and Lamauno seems to have the better straight line speed, but the inside line is going to go to Maxcon, and he is going to somehow defend successfully from all 3 or all 2 of them behind him. And I think Lamauno might have made a move on a Ferrari off the track or something there, because he's had to let him back through, and Ferrari gets straight back through and up into P5, and everything somehow picks up exactly where it was before, and no change in the order. Meanwhile, guess who's back at it once again? It's perhaps and Kvyat Bonner. These two cannot stop scrapping in this race, and they've caught up to each other once more, and now here comes Kvyat Bonner in the Ferrari. He's not quite as close. He was really close through the S's, but he's dropped back a little bit on the exit, and perhaps might just live to fight another day here. But with the many DRS zones of this track, 3 of them to be precise, it will be not long, I imagine, before Kvyat Bonner is straight back into that DRS range. Well, he's already in the DRS range, so straight back up the inside, you'd say, and looking for the move to try and get back into P7 in this race. So meanwhile, is Lamauno going to be any closer this time? It's pretty much the same kind of gaps that we saw last time, although a little bit wide. Through the double right-hander was Zafari there, and that's going to invite Lamau to try and make a challenge around the outside now, and before they even get to the final corner, Lamauno is going to be ahead, and he's going to try and make it 2 moves in one go by trying to go round the outside of the Haas, but washes out and goes wide, and that's going to invite a Ferrari straight back up the inside as he gets back up into P5 in this race. Or, well, it would have been P5, but we've got the first round of pit stops coming in now, and one of those was for Maxcon. He's darted to the pit lane as well, and our race leader Okram pulls in too, and well, he pulls out of the pits right behind this fight as well, so he'll be getting involved in a second potentially once his tyres turn on, and this is now going to be a really interesting fight with now the 2 title rivals getting well, right up close and personal on the track, and especially if Lamauno's not able to dispense off the Alpine of a Ferrari ahead of him, then this might just be a bit of a painful one for him in the McLaren, because of course he has not pit in this race, whereas Okram behind him has pit in this race and will now be going to the end, as meanwhile Luigi, I think, has either retired in the pits or crashed out there, and I think there's some battling going on further down the order. Oh sorry, no, that's just some pit stops going on further down the order for a change of wings there for Smolly. And Denzel and Bablo both making their stops as well. We had a lot of pit stops on that lap, so there will be some changes to the tyres, so apologies if it takes me a second to catch up on those. But yeah, looking back to this fight now, it's still roaring on because Lamauno is still behind as, oh, he goes a bit off track there, and he's going to lose a bit of time now. He's had to go quite slow to avoid slamming into that inside barrier, which comes right out towards the track. It's such a high-speed corner, and with the curb that you just sort of have to hop to get back onto the track as well. It's cost him a bit of time, but the DRS immediately gives him all of that time back, and he's going to be straight back into the fight here now as they head onto the main street. But no, he bails for the pit lane, and he will come into the pits now to try and make what will be, well, I would imagine his only stop in this race, and I'm guessing it's going to be onto a set of hard tyres, and indeed it will be for the last 12 laps of this race. Good stop for him, 2.2 seconds, that's about as fast as you can get on the game. And he will come out, well, where will he come out? Looks like he's going to get some clean track. If he can get ahead of the Haas, that's Maxcon, who will, well, who he was fighting before this, if you remember. And it looks like, yes, he has been able to make the overcut work. So the hard tyres, cold hard tyres for Maxcon, almost predictably really not doing him any favours there. And Lamauno able to successfully get the overcut done. And now he's got to get his head down and try and crack on with some good laps in this race. Meanwhile, Okram is now closing up and taking Lamauno's place, so pressure is far from off for a Ferrari just yet, because that's one threat gone, but another threat appears in his wing mirrors now in the form of Okram this time. The 2 title contenders are just hustling the Alpine driver, the Ferrari, sort of having a bit of a baptism of fire into Season 4 here. Of course, missed both races before this, the pre-season and the opening round in Australia, so he's getting brought in under very intense conditions, fighting the title favourites here, as he's going to look to lap the Red Bull driver of XC, who's having a bit of a torrid time in this race after, well, a torrid last race as well, and unfortunately for him, doesn't look like he's going to be able to improve on it here. But here comes Okram now, looking to improve on his position. He's got the DRS open as they head towards turn 1, and I don't think that there's much that the Alpine of Afari can do to fight this one, and indeed there is not, and through goes Okram in the Williams into P3, and is going to try and get away now on those medium tyres, and I would imagine be going flat out pedal to the metal until the end of this race, and it is the medium tyres again for him though. So somehow it looks like Okram is going to be making that softer medium strategy work. I don't know how he does it. His tyre wear is just unmatched compared to anybody else in the league, it seems, and he's just able to make these strategies work that nobody else does, and it gives him such a big pace advantage that he's able to do exactly what he's doing right now with a pretty comfortable net lead of this race, with only about 9 seconds of gap between the two cars ahead of him who are left to pit, and that means that he will have a very lofty lead once the pit stops do indeed shake out for the drivers ahead of him. Meanwhile, I think somebody who might be getting involved in some battles is Marty in the Alfa Romeo, who is closing up to Lamano's teammate there. That's Denzel up the road. He was a little bit closer going into the first couple of corners, but I think he might have dropped back a little bit. I don't know if there was a mistake, but either way, looks like that fight has unfortunately ended before it really was able to start. But Afari actually, well, it looked like he was still close, but again, the timing screen's just lying to me there, so apologies. And that does mean that Okram, I would imagine, after this straight, is going to have broken the DRS, and meanwhile Smully has crashed out of the race. So that's a big shame for him. He was really looking good in the sprint race to get some points, and now in the actual race, unfortunately, things just not going as well for the other Williams driver. And you could actually see his stricken car there on the outside for just a second, and yeah, unfortunate, very common place to fall victim to, I must say. That first sector of the track, very tricky for our drivers here, and we've seen a lot of them fall victim to that today. Of course, Cooper already spinning out on the first lap of this race, and more accidents as well in the sprint race through that very fast section of change of directions there. A bit of like an S section where it just constantly reverses on you, and it makes it very difficult on the tyres, but looks like the majority of our drivers have been able to deal with it quite well, at least in terms of surviving them. Although on the penalties front, as you can see, even though these penalties aren't entirely accurate, we must say, after the last race we did notice some issues with the timing board with the penalties there. So it isn't entirely accurate, but it wouldn't surprise me to see quite a lot of penalties for our drivers here. That is pretty standard procedure in league racing here in Jeddah, to see quite a lot of penalties as somebody else diving for the pits there, and I think that will be Afari going for the pit lane as well. So Lrc and Afari both coming in now. Lrc was on those medium tyres, so I think Lrc is going to try and match Okram's strategy here by going, I would imagine, onto a set of soft tyres to the end of this race now. Indeed he will, so it looks like there is somebody who can challenge Okram's tyre wear then. It's Lrc coming out of the pits now on a set of soft tyres after starting the race on mediums, and he will be going to the end now and going pretty quickly as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick up a fastest lap somewhere along the way in the next few laps of this race. Meanwhile, I think Frost and Kvyat Bonner were, well, the timing screen said they were getting close, but the timing screen lied again, so that's nice. It's just sort of taunting us there with the potential of some battles, and then deciding, you know what, nah, we're not having any battles just yet. But I'm sure this race is the excitement in this race is far from done, because look what battle is about to resume on cold tyres. It's the Alpine of Afari versus the warm tyres of Lamano as they go into the sector 2 of this lap. And it is medium tyres though for Afari. Of course, he started on the hard tyres, so he will be able to warm those medium tyres up a little bit quicker. So by the time he gets to the end of this lap, I'd imagine he'd have pretty much all the heat he needs into those mediums, and Lamano is going to have to try and capitalise by making an early move here, try and find some way or another to pounce before those tyres are up to full temperature. And this might be it here into turn 22. Thinks better of it. Probably a sensible decision there. He was only barely going to be alongside if he did try and keep his foot in there. I suspect that Afari might have been about to close the door on him. So hard but fair racing between the two potentially, but here comes Lamauno again. He's thought better of it, and he's got the DRS this time to his advantage as he goes into the final corner and gets the move done. But such is the nature of this track, the DRS now swings in favour of the Alpine, Alphafari, who is now going to get that toe and does seem to be a bit slow in the straight line, so he's going to have to pull to the outside of turn 1. Lamau defends the inside, but that will become the inside for Afari at turn 2, and it looks like he's going to be able to get ahead as he, but Lamau gets a good exit out of turn 2, but no, not good enough quite, and these two will continue their battle exactly where they left off before the pit stops in emphatic style as they trade places throughout the final and first sector of the lap there. Some great racing between the two of them. Of course, these two were title rivals this time last season, and that rivalry is absolutely still going, even if it might not be the title rivalry. Of course, Afari having a little bit of a disadvantage after missing the first race of the season, but he still has plenty of time. If he's able to get a good result on the boards here, he might just be able to get his name into the ring come the end of the season. Of course, quite a long season this year in LRC. It's our longest ever calendar at 14 races, so plenty of opportunities for the drivers to score some big points. And of course, with it being a sprint race here, we do have 3 of them this season. This will be one of those sprint races, the first of them, and that does mean a lot more points on offer for all of our drivers to try and accrue as well. And I suspect the drivers like Afari, who struggled, struggled to appear, will be making the most of that one. Anyway, this battle is once again going to commence, I would imagine. It wasn't quite close enough for Lamauno into the final corner this time, and he does seem a bit further back. Meanwhile, Afari is going to be getting a bit of a tow from the lapped Red Bull of Ixis there, who pulls to the inside, not wanting to take any sides in this one. But, well, whether it was significant or not, it was enough for Afari to stay ahead into turn 1 this time. And I think now, with those medium tyres, that might be it for Lamauno. Unless there's a mistake from one of the drivers ahead, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get past Afari in this race. But speaking of those drivers ahead, we do of course have Lrc in P4 and German Beat still not pit, I don't think, from the hard tyres. He's currently running 3rd in this race. I'll see if I can pull up the pit stops for us here. And, well, his tyres are indeed, well, they're only 10 laps old, so he must have pit then. So German Beat is actually running a genuine P3 here in this race on the hard tyres, and that is seriously impressive stuff from him. He's going to be quite slow compared to the guys around him towards the end now, but if that data is accurate, and if he has only been on those tyres for 10 laps, then German Beat might be in position to try and maybe even fight for a podium, but it will have to be a fight because Lrc is closing up on him on those soft tyres, as you would expect, but with the potential to have some penalties. We'll have to see if German Beat is able to last this one for the next 7 laps. And meanwhile, of course, can't forget to mention Anirudh, who still hasn't pit. He definitely hasn't pit in this race. Running in the lead of this one, so it'll be definitely a set of the soft compound of tyre for him when he does come into the pits, and he might be able to take the fastest lap away from Lrc, although, as I say that, Okram takes the fastest lap for himself, so maybe Lrc's pace, even with the soft tyres, not enough to overcome Okram, which really just goes to show how fast he's been in this race. But yeah, once Anirudh does come into the pits, will be a set of soft tyres, and where will he come out? I think he'll come out probably just behind Lrc actually, so he might have some fighting to do with those soft tyres to try and even get himself back onto the podium. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. The action is definitely far from over in this race, as still somehow, even on lap 19, pit stops left to be made, and I would imagine that pit stop will be surely this lap, maybe even, well, maybe next lap, perhaps Anirudh trying the Alexander Albon from Australia strategy of just do the whole race on one compound of tyre and then pit on the final lap. Would be quite a bold one, and it wouldn't leave him with much time to try and make up the places that he might need to make up, but we'll see. Does he pull into the pits here this time? No, he will not. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one for Anirudh, as he is still going on those same hard compound of tyre that he started this race on, and we're going to have to wait and find out if he is actually going to be able to get onto the podium at all once he does come out of the pits. So we'll see how that one develops. Meanwhile, something else that's developing is a battle between Frosty and the Haas of Maxcon here, this time for P7. Of course, Frosty crashed out very early on in the sprint race, so he's looking to make amends here as he dives it up the inside into the final corner. Maxcon going to get a really nice switchback though. That was great driving from him, and he's going to have the DRS as well. As you know, he's not going to get the DRS, so he got straight back ahead, but now Frosty with the DRS again is going to go side by side, and he might be able to get ahead now into the first corner. They're going to be neck and neck as they head into turn 1, but it looks like indeed Maxcon will be able to hold on defending that inside line, as he has already done a few times in this race. Of course, if you remember with that battle with Lamano Nafari earlier on, he was able to fend for himself pretty impressively, I have to say, and he's putting that defensive experience that he's already shown in this race to use once again here against Frosty, who is a very quick driver. So we'll have to see if he's able to survive the offensive for the last 5 laps of this race here, which I'm sure will be an offensive that comes on thick and fast from the Australian driver. As meanwhile, Lamano is still actually quite close to Afari, and I think he's actually closing up a little bit now. The gap had extended a little bit over the past few laps, but come back down now, and Lamano is back into the DRS range. So we thought this fight might be over, but it is not over, it seems like, because Lamano, those hard tyres finally starting to come to life for him and doing some good, because out of the final corner he is going to be in line to make a move. But up the road you can already see Lrc is in line to make a move of his own here with 5 laps to go officially now in this race. Here comes Lrc with the DRS. He dives it up the inside of Germanbeat into turn 1. Germanbeat might try and get the switch back here as they exit the first corner, but Lrc with those soft tyres has the grip advantage and is able to get ahead and stay ahead as they head towards turn 4. And meanwhile, Afari has been able to do exactly the same thing and stay ahead using the softer compound of tyres, and I don't think Lamano was actually able to even get alongside the his fellow countrymen as they head into the first corner. And he will have to wait for another day and another opportunity to try and get that move on the Alpine, but it might even be a move on the Aston Martin of Germanbeat sooner than the move on the Alpine, as we did say Germanbeat's putting a really impressive drive here so far in this race, but he will be dropping down the order now with still quite a few laps to go in this race. There is plenty of time for those rapid drivers behind him to try and close up and make a move and effectively spoil the Aston Martin party here. But Germanbeat, he's not giving up on the move on Lrc, because here he comes now up the inside into turn 22 and gets the move straight back on the Haas driver. That's brilliant stuff from Germanbeat there. I was I'd wrongly assumed he was down and out for the count there because he's on those hard tyres, but clearly there's still some good life and good pace in them, and he's really making use of that massive straight line speed advantage that he does have, running very low wings in this race, and making use of that to get straight back ahead of Lrc, as now this is becoming a 4-way fight here, with Lrc the first in line to make a challenge. He's going to try and do exactly what he did last lap as they go into turn 1, this time roles reversed on the outside as Lrc in contact. There's contact and Lrc gets spun round, and Afari gets tagged round as well. There's 2 drivers getting spun round. Afari able to get straight back up and running, but he's lost the place to Lamano now, and Lrc once again trying to make the move work, but this time on the outside. No luck for the Dutch driver, once again getting bad luck in this in this league, and he struggles to get himself underway and is now down into P7 or P6 in this race, sorry, ahead of his teammate in P7, who is I thought right behind him, but no, he's a little bit further back, so it doesn't look like he'll be losing any more places. But Lrc, I'm sure, will be furious with that one. I'll leave it up to the stewards to decide who was to blame for that one. It did look like Germanbeat went quite late on the brakes into turn 1, but yeah, I will make no further comment, but what I will comment on is Lamano now trying to get up and make the move on Germanbeat. He's had his main challenge of Afari alleviated for him by the accident. Afari just an innocent bystander there, and really a passenger to Lrc getting spun round. Very unfortunate for him, but he's still there in the picture in the background, so he might not be out of this one yet. Meanwhile, here comes Lamano. He's Germanbeat's got the DRS from I think that's Bablo there, the lapped car as well, so not going to be quite as easy as he'd have liked for Lamano. And into the final corner, he's not able to get the move done, but Germanbeat won't have the DRS this time, and Lamano definitely will. And with that, he's going to go sailing round the outside, even with that less straight, even with those lesser wings for German beating the Aston Martin, not able to put up the fight into turn 1 like he was able to do with Lrc, and Lamauno is through now and back onto the podium, but he is behind the Mercedes of Anirudh, so perhaps the fighting has slowed these guys down a bit, because he is 5.5 seconds behind Anirudh, who has come out of the pits now on those set of soft tyres and looks pretty safe and sound and secure in P2 in this race to do exactly what he did in the sprint race. So solid strategy by him. I was questioning it a little bit, but I was wrong for that one. So I'll hold my hands up and say well done to Anirudh there, because it looks like without any mistakes he might be on his way to shore up a very solid double P2 here across the sprint and feature race, if you call it a feature race, here in Jeddah. As meanwhile, Germanby is dropping further back and might be dropping into the clutches of Afari, who we did say is not completely taken out of this one. It was very unfortunate for him to get effectively half spun around there, getting tagged by Lrc's rear end. But he was able to recover pretty quickly, and because of that he might be able to recover one more position yet in this race if he can get past the Aston Martin of Germanby with only 2 more laps remaining once they cross the start-finish line, I believe. Or actually no, I think Ockram's well clear of the start-finish line, so 3 laps to go then for these guys to try and make any last attempts at some overtakes. Germanby is still in the DRS range of Lamauno, so he will be getting a nice tow from the McLaren. And using that straight line speed advantage that he does have, he is able to stay ahead and stay clear of Afari in the Alpine for the time being. But Afari is most definitely pushing, because he is just at the fastest lap of this race, even on those medium tyres. That's some seriously impressive stuff considering how many soft runners we have. Meanwhile, here's the battle reignited once again between Frosty and it was Maxcon there, and it was getting a little bit frosty because there's contact at turn 2, and here comes Kvyat Bonner now to try and make the move straight through, and is gifted the position to get up into P8 there and gets ahead of the AlphaTauri driver, who was well, pinched in at the apex by Maxcon, who we'd already seen put up some firm defence in this race, but perhaps that was a little bit too firm. I'll once again leave that one to the stewards to call, not my place to make the decision, but Frosty getting, very unfortunately for him, spun out there, half spun out at least on the inside, and now having that battle curtailed really, and he's going to have to try and catch up to the back of Kvyat Bonner and try and make a move to even get that P8 back in this race. Meanwhile, Afari is looking to make a move of his own now. He's caught up to the back of Germanby, who does still just about have DRS from Lamauno, but that will be expiring very soon, as here comes Afari now into the final corner, not quite close enough to make anything work yet, or well, either that or he's just going to make the perhaps sensible decision and go for the move into turn 1, because here they go side by side now as they cross the line onto the final lap of the race. So I was right the first time last time. Here we go into turn 1, the final few chances here for this move to decide some late positions, and Germanby cuts across turn 2 and has just picked up a penalty if we're to trust the standings there, and that could be a big shame for him, because he might now not be able to fight this position for P4, which would be a big shame for him. But either way, Afari has gotten through, and on the road at least. We'll see if that penalty was true or not after the race finishes. But Afari through and up into P4, and might yet try and make a last lap challenge for the podium on Lamauno. He's got the softer compound of tyre, of course, but Lamauno will surely have some better conditions for his tyres, less wear on them, of course, with it being the harder compound. So we'll have to see if these two are able to keep fighting it out and take the fight all the way to the end. Meanwhile, somebody who's been completely uncontested in this race is Ockram. He's outclassed the whole field here, and on the final lap will now take his Williams to the line. He almost did it in Australia, but this time he will do it in Jeddah, and Ockram wins round 2 of the season here in Jeddah and takes a whole 25 points home. Really good drive by him, but the fighting is not done yet. Anirudh takes second, but here comes Lamauno and Afari. These two might yet go side by side over the line again here, as Afari is going to get the DRS as they head towards the line, but he won't be close enough. Lamauno will just about hold on to P3, and I think if there was any more laps in this race, then that position might have been subject to change. But Lamauno does hold on just about and takes a solid P3, a really good comeback drive from him after that drive-through penalty on the first lap for jumping the start. He's recovered well from that mistake and will be still right up there with his main championship rival Akram in the point standings after this one. Meanwhile, the race is still going further down the order. The final points finisher looks like it's going to be I Like Trains in the Mercedes, as he crosses the line now to take a solid P10 and at least pick up 1 point for his team in this race. And perhaps crosses the line 11th. He'll be disappointed with that one, no doubt. And Jarman will bring it home for P12, with Denzel being the last car on the lead lap, who will wind his McLaren home in P13. But yeah, what a race that was. Some really good racing action there between a lot of different drivers, especially that sprint race. The wheel-to-wheel action there was like nothing I've ever seen before, even in league racing. That effectively pack racing action through the start of the race. Some excellent racing provided by this Jeddah circuit, as it so often does, especially in league races. And Akram is your race winner here in Jeddah. Really good drive by him to take the win in Williams. Like we say, he wasn't close enough quite to do it last time. Got about as close as you can get without winning, but this time it will be the win, and there was definitely no doubt about that one. I think there was no doubt about that one for quite a while, so really good drive by him. And great drive by Anirudh as well, just to bring home a solid P2 that stayed out of the fighting whilst there was a bit of chaos kicking off around him. And Lamano and Afari once again reignite their rivalry from last season and continue to battle, taking it all the way to the line there on the final lap of the race, with a fantastic fight for the last podium position going just about in the favour of Lamano.